I rushed into the fire to save Sweetheart, but he locked me inside and I got disfigured. My parents abandoned me and adopted a daughter. The adopted daughter took me to a mountain village, where I got pregnant 4 times in 3 years. I pretended to be obedient and finally found an opportunity to escape back home. The adopted daughter, walking hand in hand with Sweetheart, mocked me, while my parents kept a distance, being indifferent. In the end, I died in a car accident, because the adopted daughter needed a heart. When I woke up again, I was back to the day of the fire. Without hesitation, I ran towards the fire again. Before Sweetheart could run out, I locked him inside. Help, help. I suddenly opened my eyes, coughing uncontrollably from the thick smoke. Before me was a raging inferno. I glanced down at the princess dress I was wearing, squinting. Was I back to when I was 7 years old? Simon's screams still echoed in my ears. In the previous life, I heard his screams and immediately rushed to help. Despite my fear, I dragged him out, but he hastily locked the door behind him and left me to be consumed by the flames. The roaring flames filled my sight, and an inexplicable excitement surged in my heart, a satisfying feeling rising in my throat. Simon, the gears of destiny are turning back, aren't they? I got up and ran towards him without hesitation. Simon's figure was faintly visible in the firelight. Before he could rush out, I kicked the scorching iron door shut. The door would automatically lock when closed. He couldn't get out. Why is the door closed? Simon cried and screamed, his voice growing hoarse and terrifying. Linda, are you there? Open the door. Save me. His voice faded, coughing fiercer. I stared at the closed door in front of me, as if I could see him just on the other side. I smirked, using a crying tone. Don't worry, I'll get someone to save you. Both sets of parents rushed over, and I curled up in the corner untouched by the raging fire, trembling. Mother rushed to me. Linda, she hugged me. Are you okay, darling? Let mommy see. My face was lifted by a pair of gentle hands. These were the hands that had once brought me warmth, but also the hands that sealed my fate. Instinctively, I frowned and turned away. She thought I was just scared, seeing the torn princess dress and dirty face. Tears streamed down her face. It's Mom's fault for not protecting you, she cried, her hands carefully touching my face. I sneered inwardly. Mr. and Mrs. White were extreme perfectionists. Their most prized creation was me. They were happy when others praised me. Then they brought me everything I casually mentioned. After I was disfigured in the fire, their love stopped. Their gazes upon me were like looking at a mouse. Once Mother confirmed my face was intact, she quickly carried me away from the fire. I huddled on her shoulder, watching a group of people struggling to open the iron gate. By the time Simon was rescued, he was unconscious and covered in blood. He was rushed to the hospital. I was taken back home by my parents. Thank goodness you're okay. Mom would not have lived if something happened to you. Mother cried again. Unknowingly, I thought she really cared, but her concern was only for my face. Father also breathed a sigh of relief. They couldn't see the coldness that flashed in my eyes. Since that day, I seemed to be frightened. I no longer smiled or played. My parents tried everything to cheer me up, but I remained expressionless. They arranged for a therapist, and I cooperated throughout, eventually diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. From then on, my parents always smiled and spoke gently to me. I knew that even if I asked for the moon, they would find a way to bring me a clump of earth from there. Still, I didn't smile. My parents became anxious. Sweetheart, is there something you want? Mother asked softly, holding me in her arms. Father joined in too. Anything you desire, Dad will make sure to bring it to you. I lowered my eyes, hiding the coldness within. They were just like that. In my past life, less than a year after I returned, their adopted daughter was diagnosed with a heart condition. That girl pointed at me, wanting to exchange hearts. So they orchestrated a car accident. They did everything they could. I pointed at the TV. A show was on, and I said, her. Father waved his hand, instructing to bring the actress to me. I shook my head. When he was about to say something, I interrupted. I want a maid. The actress I pointed to played a maid in the show. After hearing this, my parents exchanged glances, feeling perplexed. It could be tricky. If she can play with me, she should be about 7 or 8 years old. Child labor is illegal. Seeing them troubled, I feigned sadness and lowered my head. It's okay if not possible. Father paced around the living room, while Mother held my small hand. How can it not be possible? You can have whatever you want. I knew they would figure something out. Quickly, Father pointed upwards. There's a way. The orphanage. As they discussed in detail, I silently chuckled. Yes, this was it. My dear parents, I've set the trap. Will you jump willingly, because you love me so much? My parents took me to various orphanages in the city. After seeing hundreds and thousands of children, I was dissatisfied with each one, because none of them were her. My parents were also unsatisfied. Being extreme perfectionists, They wouldn't settle for anything less, even while choosing a pet to bring home. After a month without success, it indicated the efforts my parents must have put in to find an adoptive daughter who could meet their standards. Finally, 2,000 miles away in the south, we found a beautiful girl. As soon as the orphanage director heard my parents' requirements, she brought out a girl immediately. This is Coco. She had smooth, fair skin and chubby cheeks that made her adorable and charming. When the girl saw my parents, her eyes became teary. Mother furrowed her brow. She's pretty, but cries too much. Can't have her. After all, she's going to be my maid. Being too whiny won't do. Father nodded repeatedly. When the girl heard this, she pursed her lips and forced back the tears. I don't cry. I'm just too happy. Mom, Dad, my name is Coco. She curtsied to my parents, looking like a little lady. Both of my parents frowned. Mother was displeased. Why are you calling us that? Who are you calling Mom and Dad? Since the fire, I hadn't called them that. They were waiting for me to call them, not interested in anyone else doing so. Coco looked surprised, her eyes full of disbelief. What are you talking about? Aren't you here to adopt me? Father looked at the orphanage director and said indifferently, does this child have some delusions? The director felt awkward. She's not like this usually. Mother finally spoke. It's not us who want to adopt a child, it's our driver. Coco's small body shook suddenly. How can this be? It's not like this. Why? She muttered to herself as the driver walked in from the doorway. Seeing Coco's unwilling expression, he wasn't happy either. He was 30 years old, with a wife and kids, and didn't want to adopt a child. But my dad offered a high price, a raise of $200,000 a year if he and his wife adopted a daughter. So he reluctantly agreed, tears streaming down his face without dignity. It seemed that the thought of the money calmed the driver down. Yes, I will adopt the child. The director asked Coco, Coco, do you agree? She clenched her skirt, visibly trembling. It was strange. Did she also have memories from her past life? With this question in mind, I walked out from behind my mother, stepping out slowly in my pink shoes. Coco locked eyes with me and blurted out, who are you? Mother embraced me protectively. This is our real daughter. Mind your manners. Coco was shocked. No way, you're not. In her memory, I was the disfigured monster who had been bullied. But she didn't know that fate had completely shifted in my favor. You're not, or are you? Mother's voice rose with anger. If you continue to be rude like this, we won't consider adopting you. I'm sorry. She lowered her head in confusion, looking pitiful. But of course, she wouldn't give up, even if she had to be the driver's adopted daughter now. As long as she had the chance to get close to my parents, it would be worth it. Pretending to be scared by Coco, I buried my face in my mother's neck, but I couldn't contain the smile at her attempts to deceive us. Another foolish person jumping into the pit. While my parents and the driver were handling paperwork, Coco and I returned to the car. Once in the car, her obedient facade vanished. Linda, why haven't you been disfigured yet? Not surprised by her question, as in the previous life, my parents had adopted her after my face was disfigured. You must have gone to great lengths to dress up, right? I casually scanned her, dressed neatly in a small dress with cute braids. But it was all in vain. They don't love you anymore. Coco's face turned white. What maid? What are you guys talking about? No one answered her. After returning home, the driver left. Coco stayed behind. Instinctively, she headed upstairs, but mother stopped her. Where are you going? Your room is here. She was assigned to the maid's quarters. That night, she sobbed loudly under her blanket. Leaning against her door with my teddy bear, I smiled slowly. Her crying sounded so pleasing. The next day, I sat at the dining table like a little princess. Coco was called into the kitchen to serve me breakfast, struggling to place it on the table while tiptoeing. I lifted my hand and deliberately knocked everything over. She screamed in shock. When mother heard the commotion, she hurried down the stairs. Seeing the mess, she swiftly picked me up, checking that I was unharmed before glaring at Coco. Why are you so clumsy? If you hurt Linda, I'll cut off your hand. I was their flawless masterpiece, not allowed to be even a little bit harmed. When the maid did my hair, not even 10 strands could fall in a day. Otherwise, she would be fired. Tears streamed down Coco's face. Mom, why are you treating me like this? I'm also your child. Mother, disgusted, turned again to comfort me. Linda, she's not very bright. Shall Mom get you a different maid? I shook my head. No, I want her. It has to be her. Replaced someone, but it's uninspiring. 3 months have passed since the fire. Simon's parents brought him to the door, but he kept hiding behind them, hesitant to come out. Simon's mom looked at me with red eyes. Linda, tell Auntie, why did the door suddenly close? I was terrified at the mention of the fire, so I curled up in my mother's arms. My mother quickly hugged me. Dad frowned at them. What's the matter with you guys? The therapist said Linda has PTSD. don't bring up the fire to her again. Simon's mom burst into tears. Simon said when he was about to run out, the door was closed. We just wanted to ask if Linda saw who closed it. No, I didn't. I lifted my head from my mother's embrace, revealing innocent eyes. The wind was strong, and I saw the fire go out, but I was too slow. Dad rubbed my head. It's okay, sweetheart. You don't have to blame yourself. Then he looked at Simon's parents. I know you care about Simon too, but Linda is in a bad state. The police investigated. No fingerprints on the door, no traces of a third person. The door is light. If a strong wind blows, it closes. Actually, there was no wind that day. None at all. But there was no surveillance there. In the last life, when Simon locked me in, he said it was blown by the wind. Everyone believed it. Great, this way, it was his idea. If anyone's to blame, it's him, clumsy, playing with fire. Coco came out. Guests were around, so she didn't have to work. When she saw Simon's parents, her eyes lit up. She immediately ran over. Hello, auntie and uncle. Simon's parents looked puzzled. Who's this? Mother smiled faintly. The driver's foster daughter. She came to play with Linda. Coco tried hard to keep smiling. She saw the figure behind Simon's parents and rushed over. Come and play together, she said, reaching out to pull Simon out. After seeing Simon's face clearly, Coco screamed and fell to the ground. Watching this scene, I almost laughed. Unexpectedly, last life's handsome and perfect fiancé had turned into a pockmarked monster. Simon had recovered, but the burn scars couldn't be repaired. 90% of his body was burned. No healthy skin could be grafted. It's so sad, right? But I was like that in my last life too. At least his parents still loved him. And my parents heartlessly abandoned me. He's luckier than me. It's really hard to accept. What are you doing? Mother scolded Coco angrily. But when she saw Simon, she also froze. How much she used to like Simon, now she disliked him just as much. Coco couldn't believe her eyes. How could this be? Then she turned to me. Linda, you must have done something wrong. Mother angrily slapped her. She covered her face, tears streaming down. You hit me. Mother couldn't take it anymore. Linda, do we have to keep her? Mom can't stand her anymore. Is it unbearable now? I endured it for a long time in the last life. You have to endure it quietly. I glanced at Simon, trembling voice. Simon is so ugly. I'm scared. Simon instantly froze in place, as if being stripped naked for everyone to mock. Linda, don't be afraid of me, okay? He seemed very upset. I was just repeating what he had said to me. My father tactically cleared his throat. Let's just cancel the engagement between our families. You saw it. Linda is afraid of him. Simon's father was very angry. What do you mean? What about the cooperation between our families? We are preparing for a project with huge benefits. If the engagement is not there to bind us, no one will trust each other. Simon's father was profit-minded, definitely wouldn't want to give up the project. My father was also troubled, but he didn't want an ugly monster as his son-in-law. I gently tugged on my mother's sleeve, and when she looked at me, I pointed at Coco. Mother's eyes lit up. You mean? She smiled and looked at Simon's parents. Marry Coco. Simon's mother was stunned. What are you talking about? She's just a driver's foster daughter. My father nodded wisely. So what? The driver has been driving for me for over 10 years. The person I trust the most. As long as you and Coco marry, the cooperation will continue, otherwise, it will end. Simon's parents reluctantly agreed in the end, partly for the benefits and partly because Simon looked like this now. Even with wealth, he might not be able to marry a decent woman in the future. Although Coco was just a driver's foster daughter, she was pretty. Coco couldn't believe her ears. No, I don't want to. My mom slapped her again. Then go back to your orphanage. The marriage was settled because Coco didn't want to go back to the orphanage. She still hoped to stay and find a way to attain the glory and wealth of the last life. Even if she married Simon, she could become a wealthy lady. Every day after that, she served me tea, carried my school bag, and held an umbrella for me when it rained. She wouldn't easily lay a hand on me. She was just waiting for an opportunity. When she was 10 years old, after serving as a maid for 3 years, she finally got her chance. On the way home from school, she mentioned a street with very delicious candies, asking if I wanted to go buy some. I agreed without any defenses. She excitedly took my school bag and went over. I took the bag back. You go line up to buy. I'll wait here. Okay. A sly look flashed in her eyes. Watching her walk away, I smiled slowly. Ducking into a corner, I took out my phone and composed a message. Blue and white school uniform, high ponytail. The only one who fits this description is one. After sending the message, I deleted it. Coco finished buying food and when she turned around and didn't see me, She smiled happily. Did she think I had been kidnapped like in a past life? She was eating cream puffs, bouncing around with light steps. A van stopped next to her. A large hand pulled her into the car. The door closed. The car drove away. After witnessing this, I called my father on my phone. He sounded gentle. Linda, what's wrong? Coco is missing. I said softly, I'm alone and scared. My father came to pick me up immediately. There is a recording function on my school bag for my safety. After listening to the recording, it was clear that Coco dragged me to that alley. According to what I said, she disappeared after buying something. They reported it to the police, but couldn't find her. In the past life, Coco dumped me on that street, leading me to be abducted. Even if I turned into a monster, there were still people in that remote mountain village who wanted me. It only cost 100 yuan. Poke a few holes in a sack, cover my head with it. From then on, I lived with a sack over my head. Initially, I worked as their labor force, doing the heaviest work, eating the worst food. By the time I turned 14, those uncles who couldn't find wives started sneaking into my room, leaving me covered in scars. In 3 years, I had 4 pregnancies. I pretended to be obedient until I found an opportunity to escape. In 7 years, that van would often come into the village to pick up a few girls. The police never caught them, but I remembered their phone number. So, when Coco hoped I would be abducted again, I also planned to sell her. She's so pretty, more people would like her in that mountain village, right? With Coco being kidnapped, the cooperation between our family and Simon's parents was put on hold. Without saying continue or clearly stating to stop, 7 years flew by. I had grown up, inheriting excellent genes, along with the dedication my parents had invested in me. Impeccable temperament, flawless face. My grades were good too, with a super memory from a young age, enhanced by training. I could remember almost everything I saw. Graduated from a prestigious university at 20, now helping my father run the company. My parents took me to all kinds of high-end banquets domestically and internationally. I was always the most eye-catching one. Most importantly, the young man whom everyone considered unattainable is currently ardently pursuing me. I swirled my wine glass, suddenly thinking of Coco. I wondered how she was doing. As long as she hasn't sought death herself, she must still be alive. It's time to let her come back. I proactively asked my father for the previous cooperation plan. Simon's father has aged. He has become more greedy. When he heard that the cooperation still had a chance, he came to see me. I pushed the contract toward him. This project will continue to be a partnership, but all of it will be handled by your company. Upon hearing this, Simon was surprised. Why? Our company is almost done with the transformation now. This project isn't suitable for me to work on. I'll only take shares, won't skimp on providing capital. You can arrange how to proceed. Simon's father was still hesitant. I sighed. Uncle, our 2 families have always been close friends. I indeed spoke thoughtlessly to Simon when I was young. I feel guilty about it. We had agreed to do this project before, so no matter what, it wouldn't be cancelled. Don't you trust me? Only then did he relax and agree happily. 5 months later, there was an accident in a new project developed by Simon's father, and 8 people died. Simon's father was taken in for investigation. Watching the news broadcast on my phone, I chuckled and lay back on the bed. Tears of laughter welled up. Some fell from great heights, with steel rods piercing their skulls directly. Some were crushed into pulp by the collapse of the foundation. Why would I be kind enough to let them make money? I just knew their true nature. I invested in him, but controlled the funds very well. To cut costs, he was also reluctant to spend from his own company, so he strictly controlled costs, picking the worst materials for everything. In the past life, Simon also had engineering quality issues, only that no one died. This life, 8 people died, all because of me sending them there. I pretended to be someone else and spread news of job openings deliberately to the village chief in the mountain village. 1,000 a day. Who could resist such temptation? Among the dozens in the village who signed up, I only picked the 8 who had bullied me. Then I sent them to the construction site. I laughed almost hysterically. Those who had bullied me in the past life would never have a good ending in this life. Plus, 4 more. After 8 people died at the construction site, the police visited the area where they were from. They found Coco, who had been abducted, and brought her back. Seeing my parents, she shed tears of despair. Dad, Mom, I'm finally back with you. Whether she was still delusional, or had gone insane, the disdain on my parents' faces was evident. They only held my hand. Stay away from her. She's dirty. Who knows if she's diseased? I looked apathetically at Coco, not saying a word. She yelled at me, Linda, it's your fault. You should be the one. It should have been you who was tied up. Mother slapped her, then realized and quickly went to wash her hands. All dirty. I stared into Coco's fiery eyes, my voice cold. Seems like you've gone truly crazy. Not feeling so good there, right? I'll forgive your rudeness this time. You will have a bad ending, she screamed. It was a bit amusing. In the past life, I had already met a bad ending, so this time, it should be their turn, right? Had she forgotten that? Coco was so out of her mind that even the driver refused to recognize her. Finally, I intervened, leaving her at home. She was to stay in the maid's quarters. I expected Coco to make a scene, but to my surprise, for a whole week, she was quieter than anyone else. She didn't do anything at all. This attitude inevitably caught my attention. A barking dog doesn't bite. Who knows what she's up to now? Should I keep busy or not? I spent most of my time at work. Every day at the company, there would be a bouquet of flowers and jewelry on my desk. I picked them up and tossed them aside. Yet this annoying man kept on approaching me. He would park his car in front of the company entrance, leaning lazily against the car, playing with his phone, looking aloof. Upon seeing me come out, he put away his phone. Linda, mind having a meal with me? I put on my sunglasses. Sorry, I'm busy. With that, I got into my car. He smirked a bit, not insisting. When I got back home, Coco came out of her room dragging a suitcase, rolling her eyes at me. Where are you going? I asked. Do I need your permission? I won't stay under someone else's roof. I'm moving out now. I didn't stop her, watching her disappearing figure. Where could she possibly go? As long as she's on this earth, she won't slip from my grasp. I went to bed early. While dreaming, I jolted and swayed. When I woke up, it was pitch black in front of me. My hands and feet were tied up. Coco, you're really crazy. The car finally stopped in the outskirts. The trunk opened. Coco raised her hand and dragged me out. I fell to the ground, biting my teeth in pain. Coco stepped on my stomach, looking down at me menacingly. Linda, your time is up. She had pure malice written all over her face. She bent down, ready to strike at my face. I kicked her knees with all my might. When I lifted my legs, I took the chance to roll under the car. Linda, you filthy bitch, get out here. It was a man's voice. I knew this voice very well. Simon. She teamed up with Simon. Expected, but tricky. I knew they had something up their sleeves, but I didn't expect them to strike so suddenly. Not prepared, I was in a pinch. Coco crawled under the car to drag me out. I curled up, taking the opportunity, and kicked her face hard. Her nose bled profusely, but she didn't back off an inch and was determined to drag me out. Linda, I must kill you with my own hands. My life is ruined, and you won't have it any better. But she couldn't grab me, and instead, I kicked her several times. Surprisingly tough against a beating. She must have been through a lot of beatings in the village. If it weren't for my plan, she probably wouldn't have thought of a way to escape. We got into a tug-of-war. Suddenly, my arm tightened, and I was pulled out. I was facing Simon's appalling face directly, and my heart sank. He slapped me and then kicked me hard in the abdomen. I rolled over twice, sweating in pain. Simon's voice was menacing. Linda, you're the one who disfigured me. Do you believe me? In my past life, it was her who got disfigured, who got abducted. Simon raised his head, sounding extremely chilling. Why are you doing this to me? We were good friends, weren't we? Why do you want to harm me? Am I ugly? He squatted down, grabbed my hair, and forced me to look up at him. Tell me, am I ugly? I chuckled. Simon, didn't you have some self-awareness of being ugly in your heart? I tell you, very ugly. I wasn't afraid to provoke him. If they could kidnap me, then they must have decided to kill to silence them. Ugly. Am I ugly? He didn't get angry, but laughed sarcastically. You're asking for it. After saying that, he pounced on me, slobbering over my neck. Disgusting. Really disgusting. I bit his ear, pulling it hard. Warm blood splattered over my face. Simon screamed in pain, trembling as he fell to the side. I ripped off his ear. I spat it out. So dirty. Disgusting. Coco was shocked. Linda, you maniac. She rushed over, but a tall figure blocked her way. With a swift long leg lifted, she was knocked down by him. Next thing I knew, I was in the arms of a solid figure. Linda found it hard to speak. I'm here. I wiped the blood on his expensive shirt carelessly. Jack, why are you here? I wanted to have a late night snack with you. When your housekeeper found you missing and checked the surveillance footage, she saw you being kidnapped, so I came after. I looked at him. Thank you for the courage to find me without hesitation. No need for thanks, as long as you are safe. He reached out to touch my bruised face. Who did this? I had just asked when Simon, who knows when, stood up. He pulled me forcefully and then pressed a knife against my neck. Get away. His hand was trembling all along. There was a brief stabbing pain in my neck, followed by warm liquid flowing down. Jack's pupils contracted suddenly, but he didn't dare to move randomly. He faced off against Simon, keeping a straight face. Coco burst into laughs. Linda, in the end, you are going to die. Do you know how I spent the past 7 years? I've been a slave, gave birth to 5 children. This is all because of you. I always thought, as long as I survive, I will kill you. She kept laughing but then burst into tears. I remained emotionless, looking at her coldly. Who hasn't been through all those messy things? Simon leaned close to my ear. This is karma. When you locked me up back then, you should have thought of this day. The neck was getting more painful, the blade pressing deeper. I turned my head and saw a glint in the distance. Stand back, I told Jack. Jack hesitated visibly but obediently stood aside. Simon's laughter came to a sudden halt. His forehead burst open, blood splattering, and then he fell straight down. The police arrived. He had already harmed me with a sharp weapon. In order to ensure my safety, after receiving instructions, the sniper was ordered to shoot to kill. Coco was arrested. As she was handcuffed, she shook her head in disbelief. No, this shouldn't be happening. Shouldn't it be her who's dead? I was taken to the hospital. The knife wound on my neck was deep, but luckily it didn't hit any major arteries. After being stitched up, I was moved to the high-level ward. Jack stayed by my side, his eyes filled with concern. Do you really like me? I asked. He looked at me with a pained expression. Do you find me pretty? I asked again. Yes, I like your beauty, your intelligence, your composure. Linda, I want to see you smile. His voice was gentle, as if he was saying it to himself. Smile. I never smile in front of others. Maybe he didn't know that I do smile when I'm alone, like a madman. My parents hurried back from overseas upon hearing about my kidnapping. Tears filled their eyes as they looked at the wound on my neck. They repeatedly asked the doctor if it would leave a scar. When they found out it wouldn't, they finally relaxed and held my hand tight. Linda, it's all over. Coco has been sentenced to 10 or 8 years. She won't come out. I remained expressionless. Just 10 or 8 years. What kind of punishment is that? Coco's guilt can only be atoned for through death. I want to go home, I said. They brought me back home, where I was well cared for. On my 18th birthday, as I still had my injury, there was no adult ceremony, but Jack came over on his initiative. Behind him, a group of bodyguards carried gift boxes. Linda, happy birthday. But it didn't seem so annoying. My parents were overjoyed. Although our family is prestigious, there was still a slight distance compared to Jack's family. If we could connect through marriage, we would surely soar to success. But they didn't know, they couldn't control my life anymore. Because on my birthday, I prepared a gift for myself. Linda, Mom and Dad have to go to the office, but they will be back to celebrate your birthday in the evening, my mother said with a gentle smile. It's okay, your dad can drive. My father nodded, reassuring me. I didn't say anything, just watched as he picked up the leftmost car key. After they left, Jack watched cartoons with me. Do you like watching this? I asked, trying to keep a childlike spirit. He placed all the gifts in front of me. Go ahead, open the gifts. There were a total of 18 gift boxes. I slowly unwrapped each one. It was clear that he had prepared them with care. Do you like them? He asked. Just as he finished speaking, a phone call came in. The phone was on the table with my father's name showing on the screen. My eyes sparkled, and I smiled for the first time at him. I like them. Happy birthday, I said to myself. Then I answered the call. Your parents were in a car accident. They are at the hospital. Please come quickly. I was stunned, dropped the phone on the floor. Jack, still caught up in my previous smile, asked, what's wrong? I turned to look at him, tears streaming down my face. My parents, they had a car accident. Jack drove me to the hospital. At the entrance of the operating room, I signed one critical condition notice after another. For a full 3 hours, my legs felt weak, almost giving out. Jack held me. Sit down for a bit, okay? I nodded weakly. He hugged me tighter, trying to comfort me. The operation ended with less than ideal results. My mother was left paraplegic, destined to spend her life in bed. My father was brain dead, with little chance of waking up. Upon hearing this news, I leaned on Jack's shoulder, crying uncontrollably. Linda, he didn't know how to comfort me. He just quietly patted my back, urging me to calm down. Stop crying. Go see them. I'm not crying, I'm smiling. Yes, I'm very happy. I wiped away my tears and looked up, but there was a dead silence in my eyes. My parents didn't wake up. I arranged the best hospital room and top-notch caregivers for them. I stayed alone in the hospital room, with Jack waiting outside. Looking at their sleeping faces, I forced a smile at them. Mom, Dad, didn't you want to see me smile? Didn't you want to hear me call out to you? I did. What a shame, you can't hear or see it. It's okay. I will take care of you for the rest of my life. You may think I'm ugly, but I don't mind you at all. After leaving the hospital, Jack and I went to the police station. According to the investigation, the other cars were all fine, and after a thorough investigation of my relationship with my parents, there was no motive for me to commit the crime. Plus, Jack and his bodyguards could testify that my father had taken the keys himself. This way, I was perfectly cleared of suspicion. Finally, the police found 2 strands of hair in the accident car. Upon testing, they matched Simon's, but since Simon was already dead, there was no evidence against him. However, he had kidnapped me and almost killed me. The police concluded that he was the one responsible. They just didn't expect that my parents would end up driving the car. No one would know that the hair was pulled off by me while Simon kidnapped me, nor would they know that my father was left-handed and had a habit of taking things with his left hand. As the night fell, the police said I could go home. Suddenly, I asked, is Coco still in the detention center? Can I go see her? Coco, who grew up with me, was thought of as a sentimental gesture by the police. She tried to kill me, and I want to visit her. Everyone thinks I'm too kind. Jack frowned. What's there to see? You can go back first. He paused. Go ahead. I'll wait outside for you. I went in, taking a closer look. There was no surveillance, and the officers had left. In that small space, it was just me and Coco. She glared at me. What are you doing here? Making fun of me. I smiled lightly. Coco, let me tell you a secret. Something you don't know. What? She asked, shocked. Actually, you are Simon's biological sister. You're making things up. It's not true, I said. In the past life, you even married Simon. Coco, how was it being your brother's wife? She clenched her fists, unable to speak, shaking uncontrollably. You're lying to me, aren't you? Stop talking nonsense. It's impossible. I sighed. It's a pity. Simon's father went to jail for construction quality issues. Simon died. Even though the family is not as rich as before, roughly speaking, it's still worth about 40 to 50 million. She eyes glittered. I couldn't help but laugh. But all of that is in Simon's mother's hands. I'll find a way to get it. If I can't, I'll make the company go bankrupt. Don't think you can inherit the family business when you get out of prison. You, Coco gritted her teeth. Linda, I'm already in this state. What more do you want from me? I stood up with a smile. Oh, by the way, you guessed right. It was indeed me who orchestrated your kidnapping. Before she could finish her sentence, she suddenly clutched her chest, curling up in pain. I watched as she struggled. After about a minute, she ran out in a panic. She seemed to be sick. When the police entered, Coco was already unconscious, and on the way to the hospital, she passed away. An acute heart attack. The police asked me what happened. With a trembling voice, I told her that my parents had a car accident, and then she just collapsed. The police didn't believe it. What does it have to do with her if your parents had an accident? I shook my head. I don't know either. But she always called my parents mom and dad since she was a child. The orphanage director and the driver knew about it. She was always strange. Whether the police believed it or not, I left. She died of a heart attack, had never been to the hospital before, and no one knew she had a bad heart. I didn't have to take any responsibility. I spent my birthday in a hurry, but it was my happiest day. So happy that I forgot to hide the smile on my face. Jack was driving and suddenly asked me, was it all you're doing? I paused and glanced at him. He was driving seriously, his voice calm. When you were kidnapped, Coco and Simon said strange things, like trafficking, arson. Jack, I called him. Instead of answering, he asked me, are you brave enough to love me? He didn't answer me, and just dropped me off at home. I didn't even look back as I went in. Looking at all the gifts on the floor, I didn't hesitate to step on them. Jack, I don't need anyone's love, because I don't trust anyone. Loving myself is enough.